My name is Sue LeFeber. I am the Director of Seminary Vocation, which includes field education and placement. And
I'm Christopher James, Assistant Professor of Evangelism and Missional Christianity, and I teach several courses, including Starting Missional Communities, which will be part of our conversation today.
Right, and we are here because we're partnering in a wonderful new way on a partnership between Starting Missional Communities and a course that we've taught here forever. It's required by ATS, Supervised Practice of Ministry, which is really mentored ministry in an internship type setting.
Right, and this came out of our curricular revision that happened a couple of years ago, and it's finally sort of coming into effect for the students who are headed into this semester of the paradigm.
Right. I think when it started, the whole curriculum revisioning a few years ago, we realized that really none of us can predict what the church is going to look like in 20 years. So rather than just teaching students how to be in ministry and leadership in the church of 20 years ago, we want to give them tools so that they will be able to start something new and be flexible and use that pastoral imagination.
Yeah, I was in seminary, and one of my favorite professors said to me, I think our school does a really good job of training pastors for the 70s. And I said,
right, absolutely.
Okay, well, if we're, so here we came into our curricular revision, and we wanted to say, let's not train good pastors for 20 years ago, or even for right now, let's train good pastors for 20 years from now. And one of those things that we realize is that pastors need to be able to not only lead in the traditional congregational settings, but also imagine and experiment with new ways of connecting with their communities. And so that's why we added Starting Missional Communities to the curriculum, as well as this sort of adapted form of our SPM. I've been affectionately calling it the ESPM, the
Which
entrepreneurial.
Is not electronic. They're all electronic.
No, there's nothing electronic about it.
It's entrepreneurial.
Entrepreneurial, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, but maybe you can just tell us, Sue, tell us a little bit about how this SPM is like and unlike other SPMs.
Sure. Well, again, this kind of grew out of that conversation. We thought we need to do something entrepreneurial with SPM. We want them to be able to start something new. And when our first concept was, well, start something new, maybe in your church, maybe outside your church. It could include a new Bible study if you're within a church. And that has been working so far. But this is the first semester we actually got to that point in the curriculum where our courses are working together. And we're realizing we need to take a step beyond that and help students to step outside the church, not just imagine inviting people in, but to step outside.
Right, so the other E I have in the back of my mind is actually evangelism, which there's a syncing up between the Starting Missional Communities class, which I sometimes describe as an evangelism or sort of pre-church planting kind of class, and this focus on doing actual field ministry, ministry in and around a community or church. So, but very simply, could you tell us, because I know there's things like there's 8 hours a week sort of expected,
right.
And what are the other ingredients of a
eight
of a
to
typical
10 hours a week. They have a learning covenant where they choose goals in specific areas. There is a mentor involved, someone who has experience in ministry, and a lay committee giving them feedback. But in that learning covenant, there's a ministry focus. It could be preaching or teaching or hospitality or evangelism. And there's a leadership component. And I'm finding most of the students who are doing this together are choosing something like listening skills for that leadership component.
Yeah, and that relates pretty closely to what happens in the course that I'm teaching. I'm teaching it right now, and I teach it each spring. Starting Missional Communities, one of the assignments that runs through the whole course is to spend an hour a week outside of the church bubble making friends, building community and friendship in things like a exercise group, a running club, a sewing club, a book club, a cultural community, a cafe if you're an extrovert and you can strike up conversations with strangers. So that hour a week, as well as some other practices. So this course, the Starting Missional Communities, has some reading and has some writing, but it's really focused on integrating some new habits and practices, developing some new leadership skills for entrepreneurial ministry. And one of those is the practice of presence, an hour a week. One of those is a practice of reflection or examine. So there's a prayer practice that's part of each week. There's also practices of hospitality and conversation that are part of this course. And the way this fits up nicely with the SPM, the entrepreneurial SPM, is the time that I require students to spend, the 60 minutes a week and the 20 minutes a week in prayer and the occasional hospitality and conversation assignments. Those hours can be counted within the 8 hours of work for the SPM for the week. And naturally, of course, the whole focus of starting missional communities is on reaching out and building both networks and relationships with people outside of the church, but drives towards imagining a new expression or new initiative of Christian ministry, mission, and community. So,
right, and that's what field education is all about, is pastoral imagination and theological reflection. And I get to see their reflections that they're turning into me on how this is going, how they're growing, how they see Jesus at work in this practice. And my students are very excited, and they're saying, oh, I would never have done this if I hadn't been taking this other course, but look at what I'm learning. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, and there's within this partnership, we recommend there is this overlap of this hour and a half at least of the work you're doing for my course toward the work that you're doing for the SPM. But you can even expand that, and this is what I'm hoping some students will take me up on this in the coming cycle. Students might propose an SPM in their congregational setting, or as part of their ESPM, where they're not only using that hour and a half of work for my class, but they're proposing to start what I will call a praxis group, a very small group of folks in their church who want to go on the journey of the practices in starting missional communities with them, meaning recruiting 2 or 3 people from the church to say, hey, I want to lead a group to explore and discern what God's doing in the people who hang out at this coffee shop or the people who go to yoga at this studio. Would you go to yoga one time a week, and then we'll meet one time a week and reflect on what we're learning, and we'll pray together, we'll discern, and we'll sort of imagine what kind of outreach or initiative we could have in relationship to those communities. And what that could amount to really would be the lion's share of the SPM itself. So that would be itself, not only the hour for me, but also an hour and a half maybe meeting with these other 3 people once a week. Maybe some other side conversations, meeting with these folks who are involved in this praxis team. So the new thing that could be started would be this discernment group, this praxis group. And these folks would be engaging then, again, in many of the practices that you would be doing. Maybe you'd say, hey, would you like to read along? Or I'll just share my notes with you about what I'm learning about connecting with the community. So I'm actually really excited about it. I know what you've said so far about the folks who are experiencing the integration. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming out of that.
Right. Well, and I also get together with my colleagues in field education from across the country, and I really think this is a unique partnership that we have here. When I say, oh, we want them to start something new in field education, other field educators are like, how do you do that? Yeah. So I think it's pretty cool.
It is really cool, and I hear it also from other colleagues who say they're still kind of stuck really with just teaching the stuff that they've always been teaching.
Right.
And as I hope you've already picked up in our culture here, reaching out, being missional is central to our ethos, our DNA. And we've put it right into the heart of our curriculum. And this is one of the places where it really comes to fruition. So we're excited for you to give us feedback on how it's going, for you to explore and sort of trailblaze for future iterations of this course. But just really excited, and I'm looking forward to brainstorming it as we go through it this next cycle through.
Yeah, we're working well together, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Good. All right.
Well, thanks for joining us. We'll hope to see you around campus not too long.